Hello, welcome to Viscount Leisure. My name's Charles and I'm going to take you on a tutorial video around this tracker here just to make sure that we know exactly what we're doing and how everything operates. So we'll start with when we first get to site what we need to be doing. Okay, so obviously we want to make sure that our motorhome is level. Now, a bit of a bad example because I'm not exactly level here, but in this situation what I would do is I would have a pair of leveling wedges. Okay, they are wedges that I would then drive my wheels up onto to allow it to either level from front to back or side to side. Now on this occasion here, what I would do is I'd have two leveling wedges at the front. I would then drive the motorhome up onto the leveling wedge, which is staged, okay, until it's at a position when I am level. I would use a spirit level inside the van to make sure. It is important to be level because the fridge and other bits and pieces in there do like to be level to operate at their sort of best capacity. All right, so you do want to make sure you're level. So some leveling wedges is very important and a very needed tool that you will need as well. Okay. Once we're level, we're going to come and find our gas locker, which is this one here, pinned up here. All right, we're set up for propane at the moment, propane gas. They have different kind of connections to the bottles. All right, but we are set up for propane on this one, so you will need a propane bottle or two of them in this case if you need to, and they go into the locker here. Now when we're traveling, we do want to make sure that our bottles are strapped in correctly, all right, so they don't fly around when we are traveling down the road. Quite important, of course. And also when we are traveling, that our bottle is switched off as well. We switch this off by using the wheel on the top of the bottle here. All right, it's open at the moment because I've got the gas on in there. All right, but we close that down, screw it down, that will stop the gas flow. Then once we get to site, come in here and open it up. This gas hose, or pigtail as we call it, coming out of our regulator here, goes into the side of the bottle on a screw fit. All right, so it is a hand tight wheel, no need for a spanner on this one. Okay, so we'd go in on the opposite thread that you would expect. All right, so it's not lefty loosey righty tighty, we go the other way round. Okay, and that's just nice and hand tight because there is a rubber seal at the end of it which creates a seal between the bottle and the hose. Then once we turn that on, the gas then flows through into our regulator. That regulator then turns it into the working gas pressure for the van and sends it through to all of our utilities inside. We've got a little green button here as well. Okay, this is our crash sensor. So this is fitted with a crash sensor. All right, so it will close that valve off if it feels some impact. To reset that, we use this green button and that will reset that there for you. Okay, so that is how our gas works going into the van. Walking around the van, okay, just a quick one here. To open your front bonnet, that is the catch just there. All right, I've got that open at the moment, so we'll just talk through a couple of things. Windscreen washer in here, coolant in here. This is our reservoir for the power steering. Of course, oil goes into that one there. If we ever need to jump start our van, then the batteries are situated under the front seat, but we can still jump start it from here. Okay, so we have two places we come to. This is the ground or the earth, okay, so where the black wire would go to, and then just under this cover just here, which I can't get to just at the moment. Let's get a key just to leave that open. Okay. You can see that grey silver flap there, that is the positive or the live terminal just here, okay? But this cover just goes over the top and clips into place to keep it clean and dry. Right, let's put that back down. Okay, walking round. Our mains lead goes into here. Okay, so this is our mains power that comes into the van. There are leisure batteries on board which will power the 12-volt side of the system. All right, but if you are on a site which has mains power, you can plug in to give yourself domestic power into the van, and that will run your domestic power sockets. You can also run your fridge and other bits and pieces as well that you would normally be running on gas if you were off grid or didn't have access to mains power. So you'll need a mains lead, one of these that plugs into the side of the van. Okay, when we're plugging in on site, I would always recommend plugging into your van first and then into your post on site. That way we're not walking around with a live cable, and then of course the other way round on the other side of that. Okay, also if your mains cable is on a reel, okay, do make sure you flake it out. You see how I've got this all flaked out here. Even if you flake it under the van, don't keep it on that drum or keep it rolled up or curled up I should say, because it does draw a lot of current and it can get quite hot, and we have seen them melt. All right, so just bear that in mind. Access underneath one of our bench seats in here. Okay, our leisure battery is sat under there. Okay, we also have our detachable tow bar here as well, which plugs in at the back, and also an adapter as well from 13 pin to 7 pin if we need to. We've also got a rafter pole in there for our rollout canopy that we'll have a look at in a minute, which will just strengthen the middle of the canopy if you need it to. We have another cupboard here, which again is just a storage cupboard on the outside of the van. Okay, external water point here. All right, so we've got an onboard water tank, and this is just a hose lock system, as you can see. All right, so we can plug a hose or a shower point or something in there with the right, which will come off of our water tank on board. So if you want to wash your boots off, or dogs, or anything like that, you can do so from here, as long as we've got the right attachment, of course. Got a little drain down here. Okay, so this is the drain for our fresh water tank. Okay, so that is full at the minute, so if I wanted to drain that, but we'll have a look at this later as well, if we just turn it to one side, easily simply done with one hand. If I just put this down for a second, if we just turn that off, there we go. That will then start draining our water tank down. Okay, we want to make sure that when we're leaving our van, that we're not leaving it with any water in it, especially in the winter time, because obviously they freeze, water freezes, and it can damage things. All right, of course you'll be carrying extra weight with you as well if you've got a full water tank. Of course, we've got a grey water tank on board as well, which is collecting all of our grey water from our sinks and showers. That is here, again, opens and closes in the same way, but we'll have a look at that at the end of the video when we drain down the van. Coming on round, you can see down here where our tow bar will attach to, okay, and that's what our electrics go into there. Spare wheel is situated on the back here. Okay, there is a separate key for that, which I believe is this one here, so we can open. It is that one, yeah. So that's how we get to our spare wheel. Okay, there we go. Just put that back on. Okay, reversing camera is also situated up at the top there as well for us as well. Lights and everything, of course, are on the back, as we would expect them to be, and we also then have our little garage or cupboard here at the back. All right, so we have some shelves which we can drop down, so we can make this shelved if you wish to, as you can see. Our boiler is situated here. Okay, so we have a boiler on board. This is heating up our hot water. This is a Truma boiler. It'll run on gas, it'll run on electric as well. Okay, so that's just where that is situated. This switch here is our boiler drain valve. So when we are using the van, we want to make sure that is closed. So one of the first things we would do is when we get to site is to close this. That way when we start pumping water around the van, it will not just drain down to the ground. And then when we finish using it, again, we want to drain all the water out of the boiler, so we open that like so, and then that will drain the water out of the boiler like that, as you can see. So anyway, when I get to site, make sure that's in the down position, and then we'll be able to start pumping water around inside. We've also got a power socket in here as well, domestic power socket. Just to bear in mind, of course, that's only usable when we are when we're plugged into mains. That is a domestic plug socket there. Now, this is our toilet cassette here, okay? When we want to empty our toilet, we just lift this up, pull the cassette out like so, okay? We take it to our service point, okay? It's on wheels with an extendable handle. Take the cap off the end, and then we press the orange button here, releases the air pressure inside the unit, makes it easy to empty the unit there as well down the service point. There will be a designated place to do that on the campsite. We then reprime this with some blue chemical. All right, that blue chemical will help break everything down inside the unit, so you will need some of that as well, okay? And the directions of how much you put in there are on the bottle itself, okay? What that blue chemical does is break everything down and make it usable and smell nice and all the rest of it, okay? Our boiler flue is here, so we have a boiler flue cover. When you're running your boiler on gas, you do need to remove the boiler flue cover, okay? If you're running on electric, it's not too bad, you can still do that, but I've got it running on gas at the moment, hence that being off. Now the heavens have just started to open, so I'll show you the canopy in just a minute. We'll just go inside and start looking at some bits and pieces in here. Okay, so now we're inside in the dry. Much nicer for me. We'll have a quick look at what we need to be doing. We've set the van up outside, so we're level. Okay, we've closed our drains for our tanks. We've filled our tanks up. We'll have a look at where you fill that up. That's just outside, just in here. You've got one of the cupboards just down here, which will how we fill the water up. That's our external gas point there, and this one here is where we fill our water up from. Okay, so that's how we fill up our fresh water tank. But you do need to make sure that those drains that we looked at on this side of the van outside are closed. Otherwise, of course, it will just go into there and fall down to the ground again. We've closed our boiler drain valve, so there's no water going to start pumping down there. What we now need to do is to prime the system with water. All right, so if you can imagine, our boiler would be empty, all of the water pipes would be empty, so we want to fill those with water. So what we need to do is come and turn on our main panel. Now I've done this already because I've got the whole van run up. All right, I'll just dry this lens off so we can see what we're doing. So here we go. It's a touch sensitive screen. The on off button is just here in the top. Alright, so this is our standby screen for the van. So this is where we control everything from in here. So it tells me at the top what the outside temperature is, what the humidity is, okay, and the internal temperature, okay. And we can turn our lights on and off from here, so press that. We can turn our awning light on outside by using this one here. Okay, we can also dim our lights by pressing this one here. You see those dimming, hopefully. We can then also check the level of our tank. So I can see that my freshwater tank is 75% and my wastewater tank is empty. Alright, so I can then go back. I can then press this one here, which then tells me the current state of my different batteries as well. Okay, so it tells us what's coming in. Mains current coming in, it tells us. Also tells us the voltage of our leisure battery and our vehicle battery there as well. But what we want to do now is we want to come in and we want to press this button here, which is our water pump button, the picture of the tap. That then turns on the water pump. Then we can start to prime our system, all right? Get all that air out of the system, replace it with water. So what I'm going to do is come to my first tap. I'm going to turn it over to the hot side, okay, and open my tap up. You can see I've already got water coming out of here because I've done this already. But what you will get is a lot of coughing and spluttering as it pushes that air out of the system. So if you imagine that water's got to come from the water tank, it's then got to fill up the boiler, push all the air out of the boiler all through the taps, and then it will cough and splutter, make all sorts of noises, all right? And then once you get a steady flow of water like that, you can lock your tap off, and we know that we have primed the hot water tap to here. You then want to go into your other taps, all right? So we're going to do it in the bathroom as well. Alright, again, it will cough and splutter for a bit, but then once we get a steady flow of water, we do the same. And in the shower as well. Even if you're not going to be using a shower, I would recommend purging the system because the system just doesn't like to have air in it. So make sure that you've got all the air out of the system. We then need to go around and do the same with the cold leg. This will be much quicker because we're not filling a boiler up, okay? So we want to make sure that that's a nice steady flow of water. Okay, and again, on this side as well. Once we've got water coming through to everything, we're quite happy that there's water. The boiler is full because we don't want to turn the boiler on with it empty. Right, we want to have water in it. So we can now start trying to heat that water up. Really simple to use on this van, okay? We've got a couple of different settings to use, but we'll look at the hot water first. Okay, this bit here where it says Truma boiler, all right, this is the gas settings for our boiler. All right, so if I was on mains electric, I would keep that on off, and then we would have we've got a separate switch for the electric heater for the water. All right, but if I'm off grid and I want to heat my water up on gas, I've got two choices: 50 degrees or 70 degrees. I quite simply split the switch to where I want it to be, obviously making sure that we have opened our gas bottle first, and then that will heat the water up to 70 degrees. Again, if I go up to 50, it will heat the water up to 50 degrees. Of course, 70 degrees will use more gas than 50 degrees, so just bear that in mind. Alright, so that is how we would heat the water up on gas. If I was plugged into mains, I didn't want to use my gas, I would then heat it up using the electrical side of things when I'm plugged into my mains. Now the switch for that is in your wardrobe just here. Carpets are sat in here as well, but it's exactly the same switch. Alright, just sat in the cupboard here. Now this one's got 0 in the middle, and it's also got a small wiggly line, and then a 3 wiggly line. That's probably the easiest way to describe it. So going to the top, that will give us 2 kilowatts of power, and going to the bottom, I believe, will give us 3 kilowatts of power. All right, so anyway, what I'm trying to say is you can change the amount of power that you use to heat your water. Now, for instance, if you were using 2 kilowatts of power here, or your maximum kilowattage of power here to heat your hot water and have your heating on, then you had your kettle on and you had a hairdryer going and you kept tripping your van out, you're trying to draw too much current. So you may want to come in here, turn that down to a lower setting, that way you can use more in your van. But it's a bit of trial and error of that, depending on what site you're on. The site will generally tell you what you can use, even if you speak to the site warden or reception, but on the websites or in the information pack, it generally tells you what kind of ampage there is. All right, so it's a bit of trial and error. You'll get there with it. It's I know I can use the full kilowattage here without any problems at all. That depends on what site you're on, as I say. So that's the hot water, either on electric, either on gas. We can run them in conjunction together as well, so I could have it on full whack on my electricity and on my gas. All right, so if it's really cold outside, I wanted to heat that water up really quickly, I could do. Then once it was hot, turn it off at my gas and then just leave it to run on the electric side of things. All right, so you do have that option as well. We'll have a quick look at the heating side of things now. Again, we've got the same option. We can use gas, electric, or a combination of the both. Now, for my electric side of things, it's this panel here, which is my ultra heat. Really simple to use, as I say. So I can have it on off, which is a circle, 0.5 kilowatt of power, 1 kilowatt of power, or 2 kilowatts of power. Again, for the same reason as the hot water, is depending on what power I'm drawing on site will depend on what setting I can have it on. Obviously 2 kilowatts is going to be the most efficient way of doing it. 0.5 kilowatt is going to take much longer to heat your van up, so you'll get used to it. But again, I know 2 kilowatts is absolutely fine here. And then to change the heat, I've got this wheel in the middle, okay, and I can just switch it between 1 and 9. 9 being the hottest, 1 being the coolest. So it's just a question of getting your head around you know, how that setting fits. All right. So that just turns the heating on. All right, so we have like a fire here. All right, so this is our heating system. It is also a blown air heating system as well. So this is like a fire like you would have at home, just heats up just this section here. We can turn the fans on from here. All right, and you can see we have ducts all the way around the van. Okay, and that will circulate the warm air around the van rather than just from our central system here. We can change the fan speed here, all right, by using this dial here from 1 to 5, and we can also change the settings. So we can have the fan so it's off, so it's just the fire. We can have it on manual, so we can set our own speed, okay, or we can set it on automatic, so it will choose the speed of the fan it thinks it needs for the heat that you have selected to require. So automatic, 0, manual, this is purely just for the fan, and then we can change the speed from here. Now, as I said, you can run it on gas as well. So if I was off grid, I don't have access to mains power, I would have this off, then I would just light this on the gas. Now, this is the controls for that on this side. Again, really simple. We push it down and we turn it on. You'll hear it click, 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 and then you'll hear it light. Okay, you also have a pilot light in here. I'm not sure if you'll see it. It's all about the angle really from my camera, but I can't quite get that. But there is a pilot light in there through this hole, so I can see that it's now lit on gas. And again, I can change the temperature of that by turning the knob up to 5, and I can change my fan speed exactly the same way as I can on the electric side of things as well. All right, so I don't need to run it on gas at the moment because I am plugged into mains, but you can also run it on a combination of the two, like you can with the heating. With the hot water. So it is up to you. So I'm just going to flick this back onto 2 kilowatts here, all right, because I know I'm plugged it into my mains power. Okay, so that's it from our heating point of view. We know how to use our hot water, we know how to use our heating, okay, we know how to use our panel here as well. We do have a settings button in here, so we can go in and check some different bits and pieces. Okay, we've got a tank fill button there as well, and so what that will do is where your cap is out there for filling your water, there is also a 12 volt little two prong plug, so you can plug a little 12 volt pump into there if you wanted to fill your tank up from a barrel rather than from a hose pipe, because you're situated on site, you don't want to upheave yourself. So we can come here, that there will then turn on that 12 volt power source there. I've also got tank heaters as well, so in the winter if it's cold I can put tank heaters on. That'll just stop my tanks from freezing. They're basically like tropical fish tank heaters, just stops them from going frozen. There's lots of other settings in here, so I can set my my level of brightness for this here as well. Okay, I wouldn't go on too mad with this, but anyway, there are lots of settings. There is a handbook as well, which will be on your front seat when you pick the van up, so if you want to go into some more detail with that, you can. But we know basically we want to know how to do our lights, how to use our water tanks, how to fill up and turn on our water pump as well. Right, let's have a look at the rest of the van. Okay, so what we need to talk about now is windows. Now we've got obviously windows all the way around the van. If they open, they've got blinds and they've got fly screens. If they don't, then they just have blinds. All right, so we can black out the whole cabin. So if we start just for this side, for instance, we've got a fly screen this side, okay, and then we have a blind that comes up from the bottom. We can then do sort of half and half depending on where the sun is and things like that, but that is how they operate. Okay, this window here opens slightly different to the others. It's a sliding window. Okay, so I have this here which I pull and just pull open like so, obviously making sure that shuts properly once we are inside. This window here is slightly different. Okay, these are got handles here, so we go 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and then that will open. Okay, and you can see we have these little screws here on the side, so we can open those up, close those up, screw them in, and then that will hold the window in place for you. Okay, and then to shut it we just slacken them off. There we go, and then we can lock the window in place. We've also got a breather setting, so we can lock the window slightly open if we wish to. If it was a really hot day, we want to keep some air moving around the van, we could do. All right, but if you're leaving the van for any period of time, I would always recommend making sure that they're shut and locked properly. The front blinds are slightly different. All right, these are called ringless blinds that we've got here. Okay, so we just squeeze and pull. You need to be a bit delicate with these because they are quite delicate. All right, but that pulls across like so, and then this one here pulls to the middle and then has a magnetic strip, and we pull the other one across and that will meet up with this one as well, and then just pull them back and clip them back into place. All right, so that's how they operate there. We then have our over cab skylight here, which opens. We have a couple of locking ones with some buttons here, so 1 and 2, and then it opens exactly the same as an old school what would you call it, sunroof on a car. So that's how that one operates there. Obviously making sure that we lock those when we are finished, and also when we are driving, make sure that is shut as well. And because it opens, of course, it has a fly screen, and then at night time we want to black this out, so we have a blind as well. Okay, we'll have a quick look through the cupboards just to make sure we're not missing anything. All right, lots of storage in the van all the way around, all the way over the head. Good. Right, here's our main control unit. This is what I was looking for. So this is a sergeant unit. So this is the main PSU, power supply unit for the van. We've got two sides to this. Okay, we've got a 12 volt side. We know we've got a leisure battery on board. Okay, so that runs on 12 volt. That will run things like your lights, your fridge panel, all sorts of bits and pieces like that. Then the gas will fill in where the 12 volt won't. Then when we're plugged into mains, we have 240 volt power coming in, very much like at home. Okay, so that is why we have our breaker switches here. System shutdown button is here, so this will shut down the 12 volt system of the van. Okay, and this here are buttons that we can use to isolate the battery charger and the hot water and heating from the mains power. All right, so when we are plugged into mains and you want to be running things on mains power, you need to make sure that that is illuminated, your heating and hot water, and if this one isn't on, then your battery charger will then of course not be operating either. This here is our breaker switches, if I can get my words out, for the van. Okay, so very much like you would have at home. So it tells us what they all do up here. So we've got sockets, heating system, fridge, all that kind of stuff. All right, this tells us what all of our fuses do if we do need to change one. But the main thing I'm going to, obviously if things trip out, this is where you come to reset them. But this one here is our main RCD, this blue one with this yellow button here. Okay, I use this as a bit of a test, and it's quite a good little way of doing things. If you're plugged into mains and you're struggling to get things running, you can't use your mains power sockets, or you can't get your heating working on mains electric or your fridge, chances are it's where you're plugged into. All right, 9 times out of 10 they also have trip switches as well, or it could be a faulty mains lead or something like that. So to work out if we're getting power to the van, we press the little test button there, the little yellow button. If I press that and this trips out, that tells me that I've got power coming to the unit. All right, so I know the mains power is coming through this RCD. If I press it and it stays in the upwards position, nothing happens. That tells me there's no power coming to the unit, and my problem is external, nothing to do with my van. All right, so I then go and check where I'm plugged into, make sure everything's plugged in properly, make sure it's not tripped out, X, Y, and Z. Okay. Also got a USB socket there as well, so that runs off the 12-volt system as well. Okay, so we've also got our TV aerial booster here. Alright, so we've got a TV aerial on the roof. Okay, which is situated just here. Okay, so the way that operates is, it has a locking nut here so I can pull this up and down. It is an extendable TV aerial, although we don't have much room to extend it in this van. So in the downwards position when we're travelling, and then open the locking nut and you can pull it down to the right. Push it up, I should say, to get a better signal. Then we've got this little hand at the bottom, so we can twist that and change the plane of the aerial to try and get a better signal if we need to. We've then got our booster here. Okay, so we have an on-off switch for that on the top, and then we have a gain for that on the side as well. This light here, green when we've got a good signal, and red when we've got a bad signal, amber when it's in the middle. So for instance, if I turn the gain down on this, you'll see it will go red. So it does do a good job, because it takes us from bad signal all the way up to good signal if I turn it all the way around. So I'll just leave that on full whack all the time if it was me. Okay, up here you can see we've got a fire alarm, and this side we've got a carbon monoxide alarm, so we'll just test those, make sure they work. Yeah, they definitely work, so that's good. Individual light switches for our reading lights here. Okay, so we'll go around and turn those off. And that one, we have another light switch here, which I'm not sure what that does, if I'm honest. Alright, we'll come back to that. Okay, so let's talk about sort of beds and things like that. So this makes up into a large double bed, as I'm sure you know. This pulls out, okay, there we go, that drops into place, and then we do the same on the other side. I would always turn these over so we sleep on the underside of the cushions, and I would normally have this bolster here up against the wall, so I would turn that round as well, just so that it's more comfortable to sleep from one side to the other. Okay, so that's how that works, and then the other side pulls out and of course meets it as well. And then to put it away, we just move this one out the way. Again, it's easy to say, easy to do with one hand, or not very easy to do with one hand, I should say. So we pull that out the way, this then pushes in. Okay, and then we're back to where we want to be. So that's really easy, nice and simple, so that's excellent. These chairs obviously turn around as well. The way they work is we've got these handles here, 1 and 2. Okay, so we pull that, twist it round. You do need to move them forward and backwards in order to get them round, okay, because they will get sort of stuck. But we just use the normal catches for the seat to go round. And obviously we wait for a click to make sure that's definitely in place. TV is situated here, drop down. Okay, the remote is here. I won't teach you how to use a TV, alright, but the auto tune button is there, so depending on where you are in the country, if you press auto tune, it will retune the TV and pick up the local stations for you by pressing that one there. Okay, You'll find the remote will be in your red book pack, which will be on your front seat. Now, I'm not going to teach you how to drive a van, okay, but we have our reversing camera here, okay, so we can turn it on and off from here, okay. You also have a dash cam here as well. This came with the van. You will need a SD card to make it work properly. It's a next based one, so I'm sure there's plenty of instructions online for that. We have a USB socket here and also a 12-volt socket as well. Okay, this button here, okay, this will lock our cab doors when we are in situ. Okay, so obviously when you're asleep, you don't want your people to be able to get in through your door. So if you come in and press that, so that light comes on, all right, that will lock our doors from this side here, and then we'll be able to use our door at the front there to get in and out of the van. That's pretty much it for inside here. Nothing else to really report. I'm sure you know how to drive a vehicle. Obviously got our individual reading lights up here as well. Okay, right, let's have a look at our kitchen. Just going to turn our heating down and turn our fan off. Okay, so in our kitchen area, we've already talked about our water, so we know how that all operates. All right, so your plugs in there as well. We've got a small draining board. We've had the heating on and the hot water on overnight, so it should be nice and hot. We've had it on 70 degrees. Bear in mind, it does get hot very quick. All right, I mean, when it gets hot, I mean that 70 degrees is hot. All right, so just bear that in mind. Of course, it is a mixer tap, so we can mix it with cold water as well. Kitchen light is there, 240-volt socket when we are plugged into mains is there, and of course we've got a window that opens with blinds and fly screens, as you would imagine. In here we've got plenty of storage for cups and things like that, okay, and we also have our plug socket just there. That powers our microwave. Microwave is a 240-volt microwave, so it can only be used when we are plugged into mains. All right, so we have a bit more storage underneath it there. This is our sink cover. Alright, so it makes it a little bit of extra workspace there. When we're travelling, you want to make sure that you're not travelling with a microwave plate in here. Alright, they do come out, they do smash on the floor, they do dent things. Alright, so put that in somewhere safe. You'll find it in your book pack on the front seat when you pick your van up. Again, I'm not going to teach you how to use a microwave, alright, but the only trick with this one that I will say, because it took me a little bit to work it out when I first saw one, was to wake it up, you have to press the eco button twice. Alright, it doesn't make that very clear on here, but that is how you wake the thing up. Okay, let's talk about our hob and our oven. All right, so when we're traveling, again, make sure this is down. Okay, again, we have seen these come off, we have seen them smash on the floor. Okay, so this is obviously our hob, 3 gas burners, 1 electric hot plate. Okay, the electric hot plate works on 240 volts only when we're plugged into mains. All right, but the gas, obviously you have to turn your gas on, but we have an igniter button down here. Okay, and then we hold it down, press the igniter, there we go. It's always good once you turn your gas on, actually come in and light one of the hobs. Again, a bit like we did with the water system, just gets all the air out of the system and make sure that it is all going to work properly when we need it to. We also have a separate grill which works in the same way. Okay, so we hold that down, press the igniter button, and that lights up like so. We've got another button here as well which turns on the light in our oven. All right, and again that works the same way. Push it down and that lights like so. Then we set our gas mark and we're cooking. Just bear in mind, of course, this is not a domestic oven. Okay, it is a caravan oven, so it will take slightly longer to cook things. Just bear that in mind when you are taking into account your cooking instructions. Okay, we've got some more storage down below here. Also some gas isolation switches, nothing you should need to worry about, but if you do need to isolate one of the units here, that's where you would come to. We've also got another plug socket here as well. Okay, that is for the electric hot plate on the hob. Plenty more storage. Okay, drawers and etc, etc. There we go. In this cupboard here we have a freestanding table. We can use it as a dining table in here or outside if we want to, but that's where that is located. We know what's in here. Okay, our carpets are in there as well. but we have our fridge here. So we've got a large 3-way fridge. It works on gas. It will work on 240 volt when we're plugged into mains. It will also run on a 12 volt system when we're driving. Okay, that doesn't mean it will run off the Leisure battery while we're driving off the alternator of the vehicle, to keep the fridge chilled while we're in transit. Okay, so the fridge opens using the handle. We've got a freezer section up the top. Okay, we've had this on overnight. That's all frozen in there. Excellent, and lovely and cold in here. So that's doing what it should do. In order to operate, the on-off button is this one just here. Okay, and we also have our wake up button, which is in the middle there. So this kind of tells us everything we need to know. So I press that, you can see I've got the fridge lit with the flame there, so that is on gas. Okay, and my temperature is just here. All right, I always keep it just off the maximum. It makes it easier to switch between power sources if it's not on the full whack. But it's nice and cold in there, so that is plenty in terms of the temperature. If I want to change it, okay, so I want to go to, I'm plugged into mains, I don't want to use my gas. What I do is hold down the main button here until we start flashing, like so, and then I use my arrows to go across to the picture of the plug. All right, and then I press the OK button, which is the main button again. Then it starts to flash with my temperature, so I can change that temperature like so. Again, I tend just to leave it just there. Okay, and press OK, then it will set it to that temperature on that power source. When I then start my van, when I'm traveling, if I want to keep everything cool in here, I would then switch it to my battery by holding it down, going across the battery, doing that, setting the temperature again, and there we go. This will alarm now because I haven't got my, you can see I've got a red light there. Obviously I'm not running the engine at the moment. This isn't powerful enough to run off the engine to chill the fridge down, okay, so it will only maintain the temperature in the fridge. So if you want to keep travel with stuff in there, you'll need to chill it down first. All right, so I'm just going to put that back to mains power, like so. There we go. And if I wanted to turn the fridge off totally, I would just hold the button down until the light went out. Okay, right, we have a fan here, an extractor fan. Well, it's actually, it goes both ways, to be honest with you. So in order to open the lid to it, we hold that up like that. Obviously bear in mind if it's raining, you do want to make sure you're keeping that shut. It's quite easy to forget that one. But then to turn it on, we press the middle button there. Okay, and you can see we've got a picture of either air going in or air going out. So depending on what we want to do, we press that button. Okay, so it's pulling air out at the moment, but I can speed that up by pressing the button again. All right, and then I can go back the other way and have it as an incoming fan. There we go, and then I turn it off from there by holding that down. Of course, it's got a blind as well because we want to be able to black out the cabin when we can. Quite simple, goes along, clips into place. And then to let it go, it is on quite a big recoil, all right? So if you just let it go, it will. So I would just suggest nice and gently. Again, you can ratchet it, but it will ping all the way back if you're not too careful. Right, into our bathroom. Light switch for the bathroom is just here on the outside. As we go in, we have our shower, okay, which has a hanging rail in there as well for wet bits and pieces, and also our shower screen as well, which is held back on a clip here. Again, the reason for that is, of course, when we're driving along, we don't want that getting all smashed up. All right, shower works in a normal way. Might teach you to use the shower, and obviously the tap in here as well works in the normal way. More storage, okay. Underneath the sink in here. All right, so plenty of storage in your bathroom. Let's talk about the toilet very quickly. Of course, don't forget as well, this is a clear pane window as well, so we do have a blind and a fly screen in here. All right, so you will probably want to use that. Yeah. So toilet. He looks at the cassette outside, that sits in here, okay, so that is what's collecting everything that goes down the toilet. So when we are using the toilet, we use it in the normal way. Right, this does move around if you need it to, okay. We use the toilet and then we press the flush button, so it's just like using a toilet at home, but what this will do is pump water through from the tank. If I can get my hand in there, there we go. So that will fill that up like so, okay. And then what we do is to release everything down into the cassette, we're going to come to this lever down here, we pull that to one side. Everything then drops into the cassette. All right, and then we close that from here. All right, so you do want to make sure that is fully shut, because what that will do is create that seal there and keep all the smells and the nasties out of the way. And then you can see the fan is on there as well, so it's just clearing everything through there as well. So you can turn that off by pressing that button there. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the van. We will talk about the I will show you the canopy, but we'll show you that when you pick the van up. As I say, it's otherwise it's going to go back away soaking wet. Let's now look at the other way round of this. Okay, so we've set the van up. Let's now shut the van down. We've been on holiday, we've had a lovely time, and it's time to start putting everything to bed. All right, so what we're going to do is start draining everything down. First things we're going to do is come and start turning things off. All right, so I'm going to turn my heating off. Okay, I'm going to turn that off there. Turn off my hot water from in here. Okay, I'm then going to come to my panel. I'm going to turn the main panel off there. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is come to my unit here, and I'm actually going to turn off my power from there as well. That's now isolating my battery. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is go outside and start draining everything down in terms of my fresh water and of my boiler and my grey water as well. So let's go out and do that. Before we go out, what I will say is this button here is for our step as well. So if you're getting in and out of the van, if you've turned this off here, you won't be able to use your step. So I won't turn that off just for the minute. Okay, so you want to be able to obviously get in and out of your van. That'd be quite important. Okay, so that's your handle for your awning. Okay, so that extends and then goes into the top section up there, which is that round bit. We then wind the canopy out, and we have spring-loaded legs, okay, that then drop down, and we can change the height of those, okay, to keep it to the level we want, to take the pressure off of it. What I will say with these though is they do catch the wind very easily. All right, so you do want to make sure that you are putting it away if you get any kind of wind. And to be honest with you, I would be putting it away at night as well. It does have holes in the feet that you can peg them down, but I have seen these go over the tops of vans and rip off the side of vans. So just for my own, if it was me, I would be putting it away just to make sure that that didn't happen. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start shutting everything down. So I'm actually going to turn my gas off because we're going travelling. Okay, but this one here I'm actually going to remove because it's my test bottle. So if I just unscrew that with my hand tight wheel, again remembering on the opposite threads of what you would expect, and then out that comes, and then we can shut this down. The way these lock is quite simply turn them all the way around, okay, and then push them in. All right, making sure that you haven't left your keys in a locker, all right, if you are going to be doing that, otherwise you're going to be having quite a bit of problems. I've now turned everything off in terms of this. I'm going to put my boiler fluid cover back on, okay, and I am then going to open this cupboard here, and we're going to start to drain down our boiler, if we remember this one here. So there we go, you can see that's now draining to ground underneath there, and we'll put this away as well underneath your seat. Again, before you lock anything, do make sure you've got your keys with you, okay. This goes in under this one here. You've got a rubber seal going around all these lockers. It is worth having some silicone spray, okay, and going around those every now and again just to keep them soft and supple and working properly, okay. I'm now going to start draining down my tanks, okay. So we looked at how we do this. We turn this to one side. There we go, you can see we're now draining that down there. Then we're going to drain down our grey water tank by doing the same over here. Again, there's nothing really in there because we saw that was empty on our display earlier. I'm now going to remove this. My colleague has just given me a thumbs up to say that he has taken this out for me, so I'm not walking around with a live cable. Okay, we'll just put this up out of the way for the moment. Okay, so we're now all drained down. I would then empty my toilet, so that's all done. And then what I'm going to do is go into my motorhome and I'm going to leave all of my taps open. So what we're doing is not leaving any water in the van, okay, and we are leaving our taps open. The reason we're doing that is, if you can imagine, if we've left water in the system and the water freezes, it expands. The amount of times we see cracked pipes, cracked taps, next time you come to plumb your van up, you've got a leak. All right, so if you can make that a habit, that every time you finish with your van, you empty it completely of water and leave your taps open, boiler drain valve open, you can't go too far wrong. Also, leaving the taps in between hot and cold is important as well. I'm then going to come and turn off my fridge. So I'm not going to be using that, so I'm going to hold this button down here. Okay, and there we go. That is my van, and I'm now ready for the road. So look, I hope that's been useful. Everything's backed up in the instruction books. We're also on the end of the phone for you as well. Okay, so thanks for watching, and I hope that's been useful.